What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Scale News Update. If you're not familiar with the show, this is where we talk about the news topics that happen in the scale world of RC over the past week. If you enjoyed the Scale News Update, hit the like button. Let's jump into this week's topics. First for this week, Red Cat releases the Ascent 18, a 1/18th scale micro crawler. 18 scale has been a popular scale as of late. It's going to be right in line with the likes of the Traxxas TRX 4M, the Furitex, like the Katana that we've seen recently, the CR Pro Evo 18 or whatever the number on it is, and various other competitors as well. But one of the biggest things about the Red Cat is at the time of release, it is $99, and that is at both direct from Red Cat and from dealers and distributors. Now, this is an introductory price, and they are going to raise this to $119 later down the road. But for now, you can pick it up for just 99 bucks, which is a screaming deal, as the low price would suggest maybe some compromises, but really it doesn't feel like it with this car. It's pretty much right in line with the others in its class. It is a portal axle design. It's got a stamped aluminum frame rail set, a center mounted with forward style motor in it. It's got the larger style motor, just like the Traxxas TRX 4M. Oil-filled shocks. It comes with standard 1.0 wheels, so all of the aftermarket options will work, and the tire options as well. Tires on it are at about 60 millimeters, so tons of aftermarket tire choices in that range, whether you want a little bit larger or a lot larger, smaller, whatever it is. It's got a body that mimics the 1/10 scale one-piece Ascent body, so it looks at home right next to the 1/10 scale, if that was one you're a fan of previously. The axles, they styled kind of similar to the 1/10 scale axles. Also, just trying to carry along some of those things. A pretty nice release overall. The 99 bucks is a bargain for what you're getting in that area. I don't really think that anybody is competing at that low of a price point. So if you're interested in that, they also released a ton of upgrade parts at the same time as the release of the vehicle. Aluminum and brass upgrades for lots of the components, as well as brass parts specifically for the portal boxes, in case you want to just get a little bit of low forward weight. It appears that these are shipping already, and I believe that people are already getting them in their hands. I did a video at the time of release. If you'd like to see that, I'll try and put a link to that below also. And segue, in my video, I released a 3D printable cage for the Ascent. I cut the roof off of mine and made a cage that kind of changes the look of the body a little bit. The body, I thought the cab looked a little stubby, so by cutting the roof off and kind of extending the style with the cage, I think it kind of helped to lengthen and lower the overall look of it. In the video, I released that over the weekend. I designed up an interior for it to go along with and patch that hole that you now had in the body from where you cut the roof off. So if you're interested in either of those parts, I've hosted them on my website for download. You can find those at the link in the description below. Last week on the Scale News, I discussed a bill that was being presented to New York State that would require criminal background checks for anyone to be able to buy a 3D printer. Now, what I was unfamiliar with is that there was a bill similar to it that was already passed in California that will be going into effect on July 1st. Now, it's similar, but not exactly the same. You're not gonna have to do a background check to buy a 3D printer. But if you have a 3D printer that was advertised as being able to print a certain type of untraceable item, then you will have, I think, 30 or 60 days on either side of the date of the bill becomes active, July 1st, to either turn that in to law enforcement, get it out of state, sell it to somebody who has the right to sell them, who is licensed to sell certain types of items, and a number of things kind of surrounding that. Now, it's not wide sweeping to all 3D printers. This is Bill AB 1089. It's about 9 pages, so about twice as long as the one from New York. And I'll link to the full text. I did do a full read through on it, and it does cover 3D printers specifically. It does also cover some CNC machines as well. And it specifically has to do with how the machines are marketed. So not the capability of the machine in general, but specifically how it's marketed, which is two 3D printers could be the exact identical machine in every single way, but if one was marketed in one way and one was not, one would be illegal for you to own, unless you are a licensed manufacturer of certain types of items. If you're interested in reading the bill, I'll put a link to it below. A wild bill, and I actually had no knowledge of it until one of you guys sent me a link to it, and I got a chance to read it. Almost nobody will be surprised that it is California, but still, crazy stuff. Pivoting into more 3D printed items, Ampro Engineering has a couple of new items for you guys to check out. If you are an owner of the Trailfinder 2 24, what should have been called Trailfinder 24, I don't care who says differently. If you have one of those trucks, it may come to no surprise that the body can just fall off at any time while driving it. A poor design, shocker. But Ampro Engineering has put more engineering into a new body mounting setup than was put into the entire rest of the truck. So if you would like to solve the problem that you possibly have with your very tiny Trailfinder 24, then Ampro has got an option for you, and I'll put the links to those items below. And additionally, if you also happen to be some sort of Tamiya collector, he released a FF1 Gearbox replacement. I believe that these are hard to get, and this is better than what you could previously get or couldn't get at all. Either way. Obviously, that is a very specific part to a old car that needed a solution for a handful of people, and Alberto brought that to you. If you'd like more information about the Ampro Engineering items, again, you'll find a link to everything below. Speaking of tiny trucks, Element released a new version of the Enduro 12 with a Bushido body on it. They took the huge Samurai body from the 1/10 scale, which is like a 1/6 scale, and they put it on their 12 scale to still make it like 1/9 scale. Confuse that. It's a Samurai on that little platform. The little platform is cool. Samurai bodies will never be cool. Sorry. But if you want a tiny Samurai to park next to normal size vehicles, then this will get you much, much closer than the previous options. The Proline Sumo, I think, was kind of in that range, and this is similar to that style. Still not specifically licensed, but obviously gets the point across pretty closely. The Enduro 12 platform does bring you that $199 RTR option to the market, and now they're just throwing a bunch of bodies at it and seeing which one you guys may like. It's not this one for me. Next, J-Concepts released a fluid holding station. They also partnered with a company that has a number of fluids you can purchase for the holding station of fluids, but this is a silicone molded station. So not a 3D printed one or anything like that, a little bit nicer, more finished, polished product. The silicone parts trays that J-Concepts has made, I always liked those, so this was just another thing. It's obviously more race focused. You're probably not using that as much on a trail truck, but maybe you just like to have your, workspace super organized. I know I do. On Monday, Biddy Designs posted up that in 5 days, they will have a new drag racing body release, and posted up this teaser image that you'll see over here. And I can't 100% tell what body this is. It kind of looks like Lexus-ish taillights to me. I think something like that. You guys will have to, I'll make the image bigger. You can take a look at it, see what you think those look like. They look kind of like, I don't know, IS or RC, style body. So that's my guess, at least. But more so than just being interested in the body, it was actually just more interesting to see how few drag racing products we see released now. It used to be half this show from 2020 to 2021 and a half or so. It was, the no prep scene blew up, and since then it has absolutely crashed. Now, not that it will likely die out completely. There will always be the diehards in certain areas, just like, competitive non-scale crawling. It's not dead, but it's a shadow of its previous self, and no prep seems to be the exact same way. One of the fastest rises and crash and burn segments that I've seen in the, granted, much less than many of you, but 20 years of RC. How many of you have a no prep car somewhere stashed away that hasn't gotten driven in quite some time? Maybe you've tried to sell it and just can't get even a somewhat reasonable offer for it? I'd love to know. But how many of them do you have? Do you got 3 of them? You got 5 of them sitting around? That could be the real question. Or are you still out there actively racing? I want to know. A few weeks back, we talked about Primal's teaser. We knew that they had something big coming in. It's a V4 of the Raminator, their massive monster truck. So we've got the most recent, most up-to-date, upgraded version of their massive monster truck. Still expensive, still tons of billet. They just continue to keep polishing the problem areas, or I mean, not necessarily problems, but common issue areas from the truck. Even if you're not a huge monster truck fan, there's no way that you can't kind of want one of these. On Monday, I released another video covering my Sunday RC activities. This was another busy weekend of RC, and I ruined a number of things in pretty significant ways. Had some fabrication, some boating, some bashing, some, designing and 3D printing, all kinds of stuff in there. Do me a favor and go watch it after you watch this one. I'll put a link over on that side this time. And lastly, this week is the start of season 5 of Livestream Takeover. Matt and I we're changing it. It's the exact same. It's the same always. But it's every Wednesday and you can count on it, and there's something new we'll argue about. And I will most definitely be right because I'm always louder. But that's going to do it for this week's news topics. For this week's question, I want to know, speaking of that wild expensive Raminator, what is your most expensive single item RC purchase? Whether it's a full car, something very custom, whatever it may be. It has to be RC, and it can't be like the, valet mode thing on your Tesla. As always, I appreciate you guys for watching the Scale News Update every Tuesday. If you enjoy it, hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Notification bell so you get the video notifications, because that's what that stands for. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you on the next one.